What up, guys? The Bench Buddies are back with my college basketball Week 12 Top 25. As always, hit that subscribe button down below to be entered into our giveaway. Dropping from the rankings are Ole Miss, Nevada, and TCU. TCU and Ole Miss both two losses last week in tough games. Nevada just falls out because of one loss. And the others receiving votes, TCU stays. Then you have teams like Texas, Alabama, San Diego State, and Seton Hall just right there about to crack the top 25. There's just a few teams better than them right now, but these teams are right there and one win away, possibly from joining the rankings next week. 25 through 21. This is where you get a new team into the rankings in New Mexico after two wins last week over a ranked Utah State and at Air Force. They jump into the rankings. Colorado State moves up because of some teams falling. Memphis, two losses last week, and they're dropping all the way to 23 in my rankings. AP Poll has them at 19, but I think those two losses, I get the two losses were combined 3 points, but you can't lose these games if you're a top 10 team, and they just didn't fall their way. Iowa State, tough loss at BYU, but they go on the road and beat TCU, and they stay put at 22. And same with FAU, they stay at 21 with the win over Wichita State and then a win in OT on the road at UTSA. 20 through 16. You have BYU dropping one spot. They did have a win, but they lost on the road to Texas Tech, and Texas Tech moves into the rankings at 19. They lost pretty badly to Houston, but they beat BYU, and I think that means a lot in a week where it wasn't as crazy as the week before. Texas Tech is playing really good basketball, so they're jumping in the rankings. Same with Dayton. They jump all the way to 18. I was kind of hesitant to put them in the rankings, but they've just found ways to keep on winning, and they get two wins last week, so they're jumping in at 18. Utah State stays at 17. As I said, they lost to New Mexico, but they responded well at home with a 19-point win, or sorry, a 21-point win. And this week they have one game at Boise State, which should be a good matchup for them. And then same for Baylor. They have one game as well, TCU at home. But last week was a struggle for them. They drop out of the top 10 to 16. Two tough losses in OT at Kansas State and then at the buzzer at Texas. It just wasn't a good week for the Bears. 15 through 11. Biggest change here is Creighton moving up 5 spots. Now, obviously, they lost pretty ugly fashion to UConn on the road, but UConn undoubtedly is one of the best teams in college basketball right now. And then they get a gritty 3 overtime win at Seton Hall. And Seton Hall, if they win that game, they're more than likely in my rankings here. They get an easier test as they get Xavier and DePaul at home this week, as they should take care of business. Same with Marquette. They should take care of business this week, at least against DePaul. And then Seton Hall is a very, very tough team to play right now. They play till the buzzer ends, no matter what the score is. But they found ways to win last week, beating Villanova and beating St. John's by 1. Oklahoma moves up 3 spots with their wins over West Virginia and Cincinnati. And they get the Texas battle this week at home, Texas and Texas Tech coming into their place. And it's a big week for Oklahoma because those games are both games they can win, and both games I wouldn't be shocked if they lose. So make sure you're tuning into those games. Wisconsin, another good story this year, 6-1 in the Big Ten, 14-4 overall. Suffered their first loss last week to Penn State, but a good win at home against a decent Indiana team moves them only back 1 spot. Now they go on the road to face Minnesota and Michigan State at home. And the Big Ten and the Big East and the Big 12, all these conferences are still up for grabs. And at that 11 is Arizona. And I couldn't move into the top 10 just yet because that UCLA win, they had to come back from down 19 all the way back to get that win. And that's a good win, obviously. But UCLA, they were supposed to beat them by 19, and they were down 19 to that team is kind of concerning. And they go on the road to face two Oregon teams. 10 through 6, the biggest jumps here, Illinois and Auburn jumping into the top 10. Well, Duke goes back to 10 after their only game of the week was a loss to Pittsburgh at home. And it's kind of a shocking loss because they really don't lose at home, especially to not a team named Syracuse or North Carolina, and just didn't fall their way. They get to rebound this week against two lower tier teams, in my opinion, the ACC. I know Clemson's decent right now, but end of the year, I don't think they're going to be that good. And Illinois played some pretty good basketball last week, both wins over 15 points. And they get 2 games this week at Northwestern and then home against Indiana. Terrence Shannon Jr. is back after the whole court situation and whatnot, so a boost to that team. Kentucky moves up, stays at, the Kentucky and Auburn should be flipped. So Kentucky goes to 7, Auburn at 8. Kentucky played really well, 2 wins, Same with Auburn, 2 wins as well. And Ole Miss last week was ranked and they blew the doors off them. But now they play Bama and Mississippi State. Then at 6, another SEC team, Tennessee, they stay put with 2 wins over conference opponents at home. And they go into Vanderbilt this Saturday, easily blow them out. 5 through 1, no teams are dropping out of the top 5, but they're just changing spots. With Kansas's loss to West Virginia, they fall to 5, and North Carolina and Houston move up because they both had 2 wins last week. Same with Purdue and UConn, and they're staying at 1 and 2. Nothing really changes here in the top 5. I think all these teams at the end of the day are going to be fighting for that last 1 seed at the end of the year heading into March. But the toughest path probably is anyone, the Big East, Big Ten, or the Big 12. And that's UConn, Purdue, and Kansas. All of those teams are right there. So I think all these teams could fluctuate. But if Houston and North Carolina lose 1 or 2 more games, it's hard for me to imagine that those teams don't get a 1 seed. That's going to be it for my rankings for week 12. Come back next week to see if your favorite team is ranked or if there's a new number 1. But until the next time, the Bench Buddies are out.